Okay, so when you're graphing a systems of equation, you're trying to figure out where those two places intersect. So step number one is to graph the corresponding equation in slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M is your slope, b is your y-intercept. So for this first equation, my slope is 5 over 1, and my y-intercept is 2. So we started at 2. Now I'm going to count up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right 1, and plot a point. So let's go ahead and graph that line. I'm also going to go backwards just to have an additional point. I'm going to go down 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left 1. It's a little bit harder to graph on an iPad because I can't put down a straight edge. So when I connect this line, it looks something like that. So now let's go ahead and graph our second line. This one right here. So we have x plus y equals -4. And to put that in slope-intercept form, I'm going to subtract the x. So my equation changes to y equals -x minus 4. So my slope is -1, and my y-intercept is -4. So I'm going to put my point at -4, and I go down 1 to the right 1, down 1 to the right 1. And when I draw my line, it looks like this. This is what we have. And the place where they intersect, which is right here, that's my solution. So these two linear equations, they intersect where I put this purple dot, and that would be at x is -1, y is -3. So my solution is -1, -3. So I started the class saying that I know that we're virtual and you don't have your Agile Mind book, so you will have to take some notes on just regular paper. If you have graph paper, that would be good, but if not, you can just make a sketch. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so let's look at our second example. Go ahead, take a moment and copy this down, and we're going to graph this together. So for our first equation, first thing we want to do is put this in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to subtract x. And I am going to divide by 2. So we get y equals -1/2 x plus 1. So my slope is -1/2, and my y-intercept is 1. I'm going to put my point at the 1, then I'm going down 1 to the right 2, down 1 to the right 2. Trying to get a straight line here on my iPad. Oh, that was pretty good. Okay, and now let's do our second one. This one over here. So we have -6y equals -3x minus 18. We're going to divide everything by -6. And we get y equals +1/2 x plus 3. So our slope is 1/2, and our y-intercept is 3. So we'll put our point at 3. Then we're going to go up 1 to the right 2, up 1 to the right 2, up 1 to the right 2, and let's draw our line. Okay, there we go. And where they intersect is right here. That would be my solution. So these two lines intersect where x is -2. So our two lines intersect where x is -2 and y is +2. So that is our solution to question number 2. And this is being recorded, so for those of you who came in a little later, you can go back and watch the video to get the first question. I know you don't have your Agile Mind book, so if you could just take notes on your regular sheets of paper, and for the graphs, just sketch it out to the best of your ability. But third period starts at 9:01. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at question number 3. I'll put it up and give you a minute to copy it down, and then we'll come back together and work through it. So what we're trying to figure out is, because when you graph it, you can see where they intersect. So the question that we're trying to answer is this the solution? So is this where these two lines will intersect? That's what we're trying to answer for this question. So I'll give you about 60 seconds to copy the question down, and then we'll go through it together. Okay, so how do we determine if it is a solution? The way we're going to do that is substitute the x and y coordinate into the equation to see if it's true. So I'll explain further. Let's look at this first equation that we have, which is, or the first linear equation, which is negative 9x minus 4y equals negative 38. And now let's substitute our variable. So instead of negative 9x, we're going to have negative 9 times negative 3 minus 4 times y, which in this order pair, y is negative 1, equals negative 38. So what I want you to do is take your calculators and substitute this in your calculator, just like this. And see if you get negative 38. So when I type in negative 9 times negative 3 minus 4 times negative 1, do I get negative 38? And the actuality is I get 31. So I get 31, and 31 is not the same as negative 38. So the answer is no. Because in order for it to be the solution, it would have to be true for both equations. Now, because I checked it in the top equation and I got a no, I automatically know the answer is no. No, negative 3, negative 1 is not the solution. And I don't need to go any further and check it in the second equation, because in order for it to be true, it would have to be yes in both. All right, let's check that in one more. I'll wait a few seconds and then I'll put up our next example. Okay, so for our next example, go ahead and copy down question number 6. And it's the same process. What we're trying to figure out is that the solution? So the question that we're answering is the point -6, -2, the solution? And the solution means where they intersect, if we were to graph it like we did for our first two examples. Intersect just means where they cross each other. All right, so I'll give you a few moments and then we'll work through it together. So for question number 6, let's go ahead and do a substitution. So we have -3x plus 2y equals 14. So let's substitute in -3, 2 times y. And I'm gonna put a question mark because what I'm trying to figure out is what do I get when I substitute in -6 for x and -2 for y. So in your calculators, go ahead and type that in your calculator. And we do get 14. So that worked. But we have to be sure because so far it's looking good. But we can't be for sure unless we check the second equation. So if we get a no in the first equation, we can stop. We don't have to check the second equation. But if you get a yes in the first equation, you do need to go back in and check the second. So for the second one, it's negative 6x plus 3y equals 30. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. Except this time, I'm putting in my second equation, still checking negative 6 and negative 2. So use your calculator, type that in. And you get 30 equals 30, which is true. So that means that yes. So this time we get a yes. The point 6 negative 2 or negative 6 negative 2 is the solution. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is focus on how to write an equation when you're looking at a graph. So another part of homework 1 is you have the graph and you have to tell me the equations for the lines as well as where they intersect. So I'm going to put up the next slide and give you a chance to either take a screenshot of the slide or trace it, and then we'll talk through it together. So what we want to do is write the equation for the blue line, write an equation for the red line, and then the last thing is state the solution. So when you're writing your equation, you need to know two things, the slope and the y-intercept. So let's start with this blue line. The y-intercept is where it crosses through the y-axis. So this is your y-intercept for the blue line because it crosses through at -4. So this would be my y-intercept. So I know I'm going to have y equals, and then I have a -4. So now let's find the slope. Well, the first thing I realize is that if I trace this line from left to right, it's going down, so that means it's a negative slope. So because it's a negative slope, it's y equals a negative number. And to find that number, you're going to trace the line to figure out where it crosses through the grid. So it crosses right here. And when I make my little triangle, I notice that to get from this point to this point, I have to hop down 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then I have to hop to the right 1. So my slope is negative 3 over 1. So it's negative 3x minus 4. That is your equation. Now for the red line crosses through the y-axis at positive 4. And again, we're going to look for where it crosses through the grid. It crosses through right here. And I'm noticing when I trace this line is going up. So it has a positive slope. So this has a slope of 1 because I'm going up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1. So my equation would be y equals 1x plus 4. And the solution is where they cross. This is where they cross. And that written as an ordered pair would be -2, +2. So we only have one more question for today. So I'm going to go ahead and put that up to give you a chance to copy it down. It's exactly like number 7. You have to tell me the equation for the red line, the equation for the blue line, and the solution. So go ahead, take a moment and look at that, and we will come back together and work through it. So for our last question, so the blue line has a y-intercept at 3. So I know my equation is going to end with a +3. So I'm going to put that down here. I'm going to start with the y equals. So the blue line intersects at 3. And then I have to go up 1 to the right 4. So it's a positive slope because this line is going up. I have to go up 1 to the right 4. So my slope would be 1 over 4 x plus 3. That is the equation for the blue line. For my red line, here is my y-intercept. The -4 is here. To go from here to here, it's still positive. I have to go up 2 to the right 1. So my slope is positive 2x. And the place where they intersect is right here. This is where they cross. So the x value is 4. And my y value is also 4. So my solution would be 4, 4.